What is Gambit's backstory, and how did he end up being one of the most iconic mutants in the X-Men's roster to date? Remy LeBeau was born in New Orleans, but there are not any firm records to indicate the identities of his parents. The reason for this is one aspect of his mutation was present since birth, which was the deep red and black eyes that the character is known for. Most mutations don't manifest until puberty, and for the rest of Remy's childhood, he wasn't fully aware that anything else was different about him other than his unsettling eyes. His superstitious parents believed him to be demonic in origin though, calling him the White Devil before abandoning him out of fear. But word of his existence made its way to the criminal underworld, where the Thieves Guild set its sights on the young boy. Under the leadership of the guild leader John Luke, Remy was raised to become a talented thief and a street runner. Even though he was raised in an environment which preached self-preservation and taught him every possible way to exploit others, he still had a strong moral compass and a desire to do good. When he was 8 years old, he found a young girl being harassed by a gang of thieves, and he used his skills to get away from them, showing an affinity for creative problem solving at a very young age, and being a hero. As he would later discover, this young girl was the daughter of the patriarch Bood Rowe, the leader of the Assassin's Guild. While Gambit had been taught the ways of thievery and deception, Bood Rowe had been taught every manner in which she could kill someone, as the two began to get along instantly and became close friends as they grew older. It was at 15 though that Remy began to discover the remainder of his mutation. In the Thieves Guild, there is a rite of passage known as the Tilling, and his cousin, Etienne, was preparing for this. On her way, however, they were abducted by the immortal mutant known as Kandra, who was a mutant trader working at the behest of a villain known as the Pig. The Pig specializes in moving individuals, whether it's against their will for a price, or in this case, Hydra was in search of a potential future super soldier. Therefore, Hydra had contracted the Pig to find promising candidates, and as members of the Thieves Guild, Remy and Etienne were promising options. Remy, however, as we discussed, is a crafty problem solver and was able to slip his confinement. But while he was escaping, he sees a playing card that Etienne had dropped in transit, and it would be here where he would hone the ability that he would one day become famous for. In mutant classification, there is a sliding scale used to identify different mutants, but there is one criteria that plays a substantial role in classifying what a mutant is. For a full breakdown of mutant classes and how mutants are sorted, we have a full video of which we encourage you to check out. But right now, we want to specifically focus on the physical deformities of mutation. In many cases, classifying a mutant takes into account whether or not their mutation is a physical deformity or hindrance to a mutant's way of life. This is part of the reason why Nightcrawler, Beast, Beak, and so many others are classified how they are, and why the likes of Jean Grey, Charles Xavier, and Storm are generally held in higher regard for their mutation, since their mutations are immediately physically apparent and they can be activated or deactivated at will. Therefore, they are of a higher class than the mutants who can't control their appearance or mutation. We say this because Gambit falls into a strange middle ground. His only physical deformity, as we noted, is his red eyes, but his abilities go much deeper than this. Gambit has the power to alter potential and kinetic energy, and more specifically, he can convert potential energy into kinetic energy. In basic physics terms, potential energy is what an object is capable of doing at any given times in terms of motion, and a great example is a ball on a hill. A ball on the top of a hill has more potential energy than one on the ground because if it rolls down, it will use more energy than the one that is standing still. Gambit's mutation allows him to channel this energy into physical items, and as he grew up, he found a particular affinity for playing cards because of how easy they are to carry around at any given moment. Essentially, there's not a much more concise way to carry around 52 grenades for less than $2 than with Gambit's ability. Unfortunately for him, however, while he is able to escape, Etienne drowned while he was trying to get away, leaving him emotionally scarred. When Remy was 18, he underwent his own rite of passage, which was to steal a pendant, one known as the Cheating Star in Paris. Originally, the pendant was in the possession of a Canadian financier by the name of Martin Herzog, but when Gambit and his adopted brother Henry, or Henri, arrived, he found that the pendant had already been taken, and that Herzog had already taken measures to get it back. He had hired Sabretooth to track down the culprit, which was later revealed to be Genevieve d'Arceneaux, renowned jewel thief and a con woman. With Sabretooth's help, Herzog was able to capture both Genevieve and Henri after Gambit had seduced Genevieve and stolen the pendant back for himself. Herzog then used the two of them to force Gambit to return the jewel, and in the heat of battle, Remy only had an option to save one of them. In the scramble, he chose Henri over Genevieve, and the two eventually made it back to safety. When he returned to the Thieves Guild though, it was revealed that they had been undergoing peace talks with the Assassins Guild. The two organizations had been competitors in the same general area for generations, and this often led to some tension between the two over territory and the ramifications of their respective actions. As part of this treaty, an arranged marriage was set up between Gambit and Belladonna Boudreaux, his childhood friend who he had met at 8. Gambit was not opposed to this union though, but Belladonna's brother, Julian, absolutely was. He did not trust or like Remy by any stretch of the imagination, so he issued a challenge to duel Remy for the fate of his sister. During the duel, Remy killed Julian in self-defense, and a fight erupted between the two guilds, threatening to tear their already uneasy alliance apart at the seams. If the two ever escalated to an all-out war, it would rain destruction across New Orleans and all of its landscape, resulting in far too many casualties of both guilds. In order to maintain a brittle peace, the Thieves Guild exiled Remy in order to appease the Assassins Guild, and they threw Gambit out on the streets yet again. After being excommunicated, he began to hone his mutation of his own, acting as a drifter and a shifter as he discovered the limits of his powers. With each passing day, Gambit grew stronger and stronger. He figured out how to rig his own cards to detonate on impact, and after a set duration of time, he also learned that by holding a charged card longer, he could interfere with telepathic interference, and could stop other mutants from reading his mind. Slowly, however, his mutation began to become more and more powerful, to the point where Gambit could not fully control it. He had to find a way to tame his mutation before someone got seriously hurt, so he turned to an individual known as Mr. Sinister for help. Sinister was able to shave off pieces of Gambit's brain in order to keep his mutation at a manageable level, but now he was in Sinister's debt. It is believed that Sinister may have had a hand in manifesting Gambit's original mutation before he was even born, manipulating the genetic material of his parents, but this story is not completely reliable and the account shifts by issue. As payment though, Gambit agreed to assemble a group of mercenaries known as the Marauders and do Sinister's bidding until eventually learning of his true intentions. When trying to stop a massacre, Gambit learned of Sinister's actual motives, and most of the Marauders ended up dead as a result, though Gambit was able to save just one member, a future X-Man by the name of Marrow. After the collapse of the Marauders, Gambit was left on his own again, drifting around as a common street criminal until one day he came across a young girl who was being pursued by a villain known as the Shadow King. Gambit took the girl under his wing and protected her, immediately falling back on his natural protective instinct, the same way that he had helped Belladonna all those years ago. Gambit would help the girl evade the Shadow King, but he would later come to find out that this wasn't a child at all. Instead, it was a fully grown woman who had been transformed into a child and was seeking a way to return to her regular adult form. When she did, it was revealed that this was actually Storm of the X-Men, who was eternally grateful for Gambit's help and kindness. She brought him back to the mansion of Xavier and personally sponsored his admission into the X-Men, vouching for him to Charles and encouraging him that he was going to be a valued member of the team. And in the end, Storm was absolutely right. For years, Gambit served as a loyal and a powerful member of the X-Men. He traversed some of their most dire adventures, helped them in their darkest hours of need, and is generally regarded as a cornerstone member of the team. So hopefully when the X-Men make their leap into the MCU proper timeline, Gambit is done justice. Whether we see a continuation of Channing Tatum from Deadpool and Wolverine, or an original take specifically tailored to Earth 616, Gambit is a captivating character who we can't wait to see more of. But anyway friends, what did you think of Gambit's backstory and childhood, as well as Deadpool and Wolverine and Gambit's cameo? Would you like to see any of these events depicted in a film? And if you would like a full Gambit project, let us know. Would you like to see Channing Tatum reprise the role, or should he be recast after the end of the multiverse saga? As always my friends, thank you so much for watching. Hulk smash that subscribe button for more Marvel lore, and have a great day.